Welcome to my channel, and today I want to share a story that almost became a nightmare, disguised as a dream wedding. It's about a young woman who thought she had found the perfect fiancé, only to discover the shocking truth hidden behind charm and elegance. This story is full of suspense, courage, and a powerful lesson about trusting your instincts. So let's start and follow her journey of discovery, bravery, and finding true love the right way. Aminata stepped out of the room just as the tension in the air thickened. Her mother-in-law, Mama Chikere, grabbed her hands gently but firmly. "My dear, whatever you do, please do not marry that man," she said, her voice trembling with urgency. Aminata froze. "Mama, what do you mean?" she asked, confusion clouding her features. "Do not marry my son, he is—" Mama Chikere's words trailed off as the door creaked open, and her son, Kelechi, walked in. His presence alone was commanding, the kind that made heads turn. But Aminata already sensed that behind the charm was something darker. Aminata was a young woman of remarkable beauty and intelligence. She was humble, glamorous, and kind, yet she had a tendency to live in her own daydreams. She adored weddings, not just attending them, but imagining herself at the center of one. She had the shy excitement of a bride-in-waiting, always hoping to catch the bouquet, but too timid to reach for it. So, when she announced her engagement to her friends, the joy was palpable. Everyone wanted to know the story of how she had met her future husband. The truth, however, was that while Aminata had fallen for Kelechi, some of her friends had unease about him. They couldn't articulate it fully to her, but a quiet warning lingered in their hearts. Aminata and Kelechi had met on a dating platform, spending hours on phone calls for 3 months before meeting in person. By the time they finally saw each other face to face, Aminata felt as if she had known him forever. Kelechi's dark skin and chiseled features made him appear almost like a model on the cover of a fashion magazine. Yet beneath the surface, he had a temperament that was cruel and controlling. The day of the official engagement was bright and festive. Kelechi's mother, Mama Chikere, had been silent after their initial exchange. Aminata could feel the unease creeping back into her chest. Kelechi, sensing the tension, asked his mother if anything was wrong. Mama Chikere quickly smiled, masking her worry, and complimented Aminata on her outfit. It was a week before the wedding, and Aminata forced herself to pretend everything was normal. That evening, she confided in her closest friend, Abena, about the incident. Abena was far more concerned than Aminata had expected. Together, they scrutinized Kelechi's social media, searching for any sign that could validate their growing doubts. It was deep into the night when Abena found a comment on an old post from a woman named Ifeoma. "God will judge you." Without hesitation, Aminata and Abena sent her a message, hoping for some insight. 2 days passed with no response. With only 5 days to the wedding, Aminata was forced to continue with the preparations, masking her worry as she interacted with Kelechi. He was charming as ever, his sweet demeanor hiding a sinister truth. On the 3rd day, having still received no reply from Ifeoma, Aminata decided to visit Kelechi at his home, hoping to see his mother. He told her that Mama Chikere had slipped in the bathroom and was resting. Aminata felt a chill run down her spine, remembering that Kelechi had claimed his mother had lost her phone multiple times in recent months, making contact impossible. Soon, Aminata and Abena discovered another comment on an old post, a single chilling message: "You are a devil." It came from a business page. And when Abena called the linked number, a woman answered. But when Abena mentioned Kelechi, the line went dead. Later, the woman, Ada, picked up, but only to warn Aminata in a voice as firm as steel. "You have no idea what you are walking into. Get far away from that man." The call ended abruptly, and their numbers were blocked. Aminata felt the danger keenly. This was no longer a vague suspicion, but a stark, undeniable warning. Despite the mounting signs, Aminata tried to settle into her role as the bride-to-be. She continued preparations, attempting to ignore the red flags. But her intuition remained vigilant, and she felt the shadows of danger lingering at the edges of her excitement. The following morning, Aminata woke with a sense of unease that refused to lift. Despite the vibrant decorations and the laughter of her friends and family filling her apartment, her mind remained heavy with thoughts of Kelechi and the warnings she had received. Abena arrived promptly, her eyes serious, carrying the determination of someone who refused to let a friend walk blindly into danger. Together, they retraced every detail of Kelechi's past, scrolling through old posts, photos, and comments that might hint at his true character. It was painstaking work, but finally, Abena found another thread, a comment on a vacation photo from several years ago. The words were simple yet chilling. "You will answer for your sins." The message had been posted by a woman named Ifeoluwa. Aminata felt her stomach tighten. She sent a message immediately, explaining her situation and pleading for guidance. 2 days passed. Still no reply. Anxiety gnawed at her, but with only 3 days until the wedding, there was no turning back without raising suspicion among her family. She met Kelechi as usual, concealing her inner turmoil behind a smile. His charm never wavered. He laughed easily, held her hand warmly, and spoke in a tone so gentle that any observer would have called him the perfect fiancé. Yet, Aminata could sense the quiet darkness lurking beneath. By the next day, she and Abena decided to take a bolder step. Aminata visited Kelechi's home again, hoping to see his mother for reassurance. Kelechi met her at the door, his expression calm, almost rehearsed. "My eyes resting," he said, his voice smooth, but Aminata noticed a subtle tension in his posture. She remembered the stories of lost phones, of missed calls, and a mother who was strangely absent at critical moments. Doubts now mingled with fear. As they explored further online, they discovered yet another warning. A single stark comment on a business post read, "He is dangerous." The post was linked to a phone number, and Abena, ever brave, dialed. A woman answered but hung up immediately after hearing Kelechi's name. For 2 days, attempts to contact her failed, until finally, Ada picked up. Her voice was firm, unyielding. "Aminata, you have no idea what you are walking into. Stay away from him!" Before Aminata could ask anything, the line went dead. Later, all the numbers were blocked. Aminata felt a cold dread settle over her. The warnings were real. This was not a miscommunication or misunderstanding. Multiple women had tried to tell her the truth, and one of them had even risked a confrontation to issue a stark, chilling warning. The next morning, with just 2 days to go before the wedding, Aminata tried to focus on the preparations. She forced a smile as she tried on the last of her engagement outfits, imagining the joy of her family and friends. But deep inside, her instincts screamed that she needed more answers. Abena, noticing her friend's continued anxiety, decided to act decisively. She contacted Ifeoluwa one more time, leaving a detailed voice message explaining the urgency. She told her about Aminata's upcoming wedding, about Kelechi's charm, and about her growing fear that danger was near. She left her number and waited, holding on to hope that a miracle call would come. It did. That same morning, a phone call arrived. Ifeoluwa's voice was heavy with emotion. She recounted her own experience with Kelechi, how he had been kind at first but turned cruel once commitment and cohabitation began. He had been physically and emotionally abusive, controlling her life to the point where she lost her job and freedom. More chillingly, his mother had endured similar torment whenever she tried to intervene. Aminata's heart raced as she listened. Every detail confirmed the fears that had lingered in her mind. She realized that the charming groom everyone admired was, in truth, a predator cloaked in a mask of elegance. She felt a surge of gratitude toward Mama Chikea, whose quiet warning had set this chain of discoveries in motion. With this new knowledge, Aminata knew that she had no choice but to confront the situation before it escalated further. The engagement ceremony continued around her, the world oblivious to the storm gathering in her mind. Yet Aminata felt a growing sense of empowerment. She was no longer just a bride dreaming of silk and lace. She was a woman on the brink of reclaiming her own life. The morning of the wedding arrived like any other, bright and full of expectation. Friends and family gathered, dressed in their finest attire, excited to celebrate Aminata and Kelechi's union. The venue shimmered with decorations, and the air was thick with the scent of fresh flowers. Kelechi stood at the altar, exuding charm and confidence, the very picture of a perfect groom. But Aminata felt a knot of fear and resolve tighten in her chest. She had made her decision. Instead of wearing the pristine gown that had been chosen for her, Aminata arrived at the venue in jeans and a simple t-shirt. The crowd gasped at the sight. Whispers rippled through the guests as they struggled to understand what was happening. The friends who had once imagined this day with her in flowing silk now realized that something dramatic was unfolding. Behind her, Ifeoluwa walked in, steady and resolute, her presence a silent testament to the warnings that had finally been heard. Aminata had met her just that morning, thanks to Abena's quick thinking and emotional message, and together they had devised a plan. The truth was about to come to light, and Kelechi's carefully maintained mask would finally fall. As the guests turned their attention to Aminata, she began to speak. Her voice was clear and unwavering. She recounted the warnings, the messages, and the testimonies she had gathered. She told them of Kelechi's initial charm, his cruel transformation, and the abuse inflicted upon past partners and even his mother. Every word she spoke dissolved the illusion that the guests had held of the handsome, perfect groom. Kelechi's smile faltered. The veins in his neck twitched as rage and surprise contorted his features. For the first time, he was no longer the charming man everyone admired. He was revealed as a predator, cornered, his polished exterior stripped away. Aminata's eyes met Mama Chikeri's in the front row. The older woman's arm was in a cast, evidence that her injuries had been real. Their gazes connected, a silent understanding passing between them. Mama Chikere had tried to warn Aminata, and now that warning had been heeded. Aminata mouthed a silent thank you to her, and Mama Chikere nodded almost imperceptibly, relief washing over her features. With the truth laid bare, Aminata turned back to the guests. She spoke of survival, courage, and reclaiming one's life from danger hidden behind charm and wealth. The wedding that could have been a nightmare became instead a moment of triumph, empowerment, and solidarity. Friends and family rallied around her, their support a protective shield as she stepped away from the altar, and the man who would have brought only pain. The days and months that followed were transformative. Aminata embraced her freedom fully, traveling across the continent to reconnect with her roots and explore Africa's beauty. She visited the mountains of Obudu, walked along the ancient walls of Kano, sailed on the turquoise waters of Zanzibar, and stood in awe at the Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. She spent time volunteering at women's shelters, sharing her story to help others recognize the same signs she had once ignored. She also stayed close to Mama Chikere, helping her move into a peaceful apartment where she could live without fear. Aminata discovered that happiness came from within, and that her intelligence, kindness, and independence were her true treasures. She no longer dreamed of weddings. She dreamed of a life lived fully and safely. It was during a business seminar in Accra, Ghana, that Aminata met David. Unlike Kelechi, David had no pretense, no carefully crafted mask. His kind eyes, steady presence, and genuine respect for her independence immediately set him apart. They bonded over shared interests, long conversations, and mutual values. He introduced her to his family with warmth and sincerity, proving that consistency and respect were possible in a relationship. When David proposed, it was quiet and intimate. A walk at sunset at Lekki Conservation Center, the moment simple but deeply meaningful. Aminata saw not just a ring, but a reflection of a man whose soul matched his smile. On the day of their wedding, she wore a gown of the finest local silk, elegant but understated, and felt the profound joy of being truly seen and valued. Monica, her steadfast friend, cheered loudly. Ifeoluwa smiled, having reclaimed her own strength, and Mama Chikere, now healed in both body and spirit, sat in the front row, a quiet witness to a life reclaimed. Aminata realized that she hadn't just found her dream wedding. She had found a life grounded in safety, respect, and authentic love. She had learned that character mattered more than charisma, that intuition was a guide to survival, and that walking away from danger was not failure, but courage. In the months following the wedding that never was, Aminata's life transformed completely. She stopped living for daydreams of silk gowns and magazine-perfect weddings and began living for herself. The fear that had once lingered in her chest slowly melted away, replaced by a fierce sense of independence and clarity. She realized that she had almost sacrificed her safety for a fantasy, and that recognition became her greatest source of strength. She traveled across the continent to reconnect with her roots and the beauty of Africa. In the cool, misty air of Obudu Mountain Resort, she hiked alone and reflected on how close she had come to a life of misery. She wandered along the ancient walls of Kano, imagining the stories etched into the stones and drawing inspiration from generations of resilience. She sailed the turquoise waters off Zanzibar, feeling the freedom of movement and the vastness of possibility. At Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe, the roar of the water reminded her that life was full of power and beauty, and that she too could claim her own strength. Aminata dedicated time to helping other women who had faced similar dangers. She volunteered at shelters in Lagos, sharing her story, teaching women how to trust their instincts, and helping them see red flags they might otherwise overlook. Every conversation reinforced her belief that empowerment came from knowledge, courage, and community. She also remained in touch with Mama Chikere, helping her relocate to a safe and peaceful apartment in Abuja. The older woman, once trapped in fear, could now live freely. Their bond deepened, rooted in gratitude, understanding, and shared experience. Aminata understood that love and kindness were not always found in romantic relationships. They were sometimes in the people who risked warning you, protecting you from harm before you even recognized it yourself. Aminata discovered joy in her own company. She explored her talents, her intelligence, and her creativity, realizing that these were far more enduring than the superficial allure of a charming man. She no longer waited passively for life to unfold. She took charge of her own story. 2 years later, while attending a business seminar in Accra, Ghana, Aminata met David. Unlike Kelechi, David was grounded and genuine. He had a rugged, kind face and eyes that crinkled when he smiled. There was no pretense or allure designed to distract her. There was only honesty, patience, and respect. They bonded over their shared values and dreams for Pan-African trade, discovering a connection that was deep, real, and mutual. David introduced Aminata to his family early, demonstrating transparency and a willingness to embrace her as she was. Their relationship thrived on respect and partnership. When they disagreed, David listened, acknowledged her perspective, and worked towards solutions together. Aminata finally understood that love could be steady, kind, and empowering rather than controlling or fear-driven. When David proposed, it was quiet, intimate, and profoundly meaningful, a simple moment at sunset at Lekki Conservation Center. The ring she accepted was more than jewelry. It was a symbol of trust, honesty, and the life they would build together. On their wedding day, Aminata wore a simple but elegant gown of local silk. She looked at the faces of her guests and saw joy, support, and the safety of community. Monica cheered loudly. Ifeoluwa smiled with the strength of a woman who had reclaimed her life, and Mama Chikere, healed and free, sat proudly in the front row. Aminata finally realized that she had not only found a dream wedding, but a life rooted in authenticity and respect. She had learned that intuition matters more than appearances, that warning signs should never be ignored, and that walking away from danger is an act of incredible courage. She understood that peace is a right, not a luxury, and that no one should sacrifice their safety for appearances or obligation. Her story became a beacon for others. She reminded everyone that it is better to walk away from an altar in jeans than to remain trapped in golden chains, that bravery and self-respect are more valuable than charm, beauty, or fleeting romance. Aminata had discovered that true love begins with safety, respect, and equality, and that choosing oneself is the first step toward a life worth living. With a heart fully healed and a spirit unshaken, Aminata embraced the fullness of life, love, and freedom. She had escaped a hidden nightmare and, in doing so, had learned to walk boldly toward a future built on trust, strength, and wisdom. Thank you so much for watching this story. I hope Aminata's journey reminds you that trusting your instincts, and valuing your safety above all else is never wrong. Always pay attention to the warning signs, and remember that walking away from danger is a sign of strength, not failure. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more inspiring African tales. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What did you learn from Aminata's journey? Until next time, stay safe and always trust your intuition. Drop a heart in comment, like and subscribe my channel. And visit my channel for more interesting story videos.